What's up, y'all? This is your girl, Megan, coming back to you with another celebrity natal chart reading / transit reading, this time on none other than PNB Rock. So as I'm sure y'all know, earlier this week, the artist PNB Rock was unfortunately murdered in Los Angeles at a chicken and waffles joint, okay? So the story goes, he was there with his child's mother, his girlfriend, and some niggas ran up in the spot, shot him several times, and then took his jewelry. Okay, it was said that the wife or the baby mama, his significant other, posted the location. Everybody kind of got on her because they assumed that, the reason why these said robbers knew where he was at was because the girlfriend posted the location, when it actually came out that both PNB Rock and his girlfriend both posted his location. So, I mean, it's been a lot of discourse on social media. I'm pretty sure if you are, like in the mix like that. To be real, I wasn't really familiar with his music or anything of that nature. But it is tragic. It's unfortunate. And my job, of course, is to provide more of an astrological context to this, because that's all, like, always where my head goes automatically. I was like, damn, I wonder what was going on transit-wise on this particular day. So this is going to be kind of a two-prong kind of process. We're going to look at his natal chart as well as the transits that he had in effect for that day to see what contributed to this situation. And yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. So PNB Rock was born on December 9th, 1991 in Germantown, Pennsylvania. The first thing that stood out to me was the prominence of that 9 energy. The number 9 is governed by Mars. All right. This is a Mars degree. Mars can absolutely deal with violence, gun violence, weaponry. These are people, of course, not to say every person with 9 energy in their charts, or if you have a planet at the 9th degree, that you're going to be a victim of gun violence. But in this situation, it actually is very fitting, because these are people who, for instance, I've seen some 9 individuals who have an affinity for guns and things like that. These are people who can be very confrontational, or put in situations where maybe they have to defend themselves. Maybe they have to fight. And for him to be such a 9 heavy individual and be as careless as he was in terms of not moving with security, because he had done interviews talking about being in LA in the past and how he almost got robbed in the past, which I thought was very Sagittarian of him. And the darker side of that Sagittarius energy is very careless, right? Very careless, very carefree, kind of, the devil may care attitude, can be kind of irresponsible. Just how he was moving in general was kind of careless. You know what I'm saying? Not to blame the victim, but it just kind of is what it is. And that's very Sagittarius. And that's something that a lot of Sagittarians end up getting in trouble over. Not really taking things as seriously as they probably should be. Not really paying attention. Walking around with your head in the clouds, right? But that in tandem with him being a birth number 9 just wasn't the best combination. That could make a person prone to accidents and things like that. But also, once again, being a victim of a certain level of violence, or some of these people could have anger issues themselves. And in this case, this is just how it materialized. And I had a homegirl who messaged me after the incident, and she was like, his death kind of reminded me of, Young Dolph. Okay. Young Dolph, the Memphis rapper who was killed either last year, I think, while he was going to get some cookies. Okay. She said it had the same type of energy signature. And I went and I doubled back on my Young Dolph reading and noticed that he was born on the 27th, which reduces to 9. So he also had that 9 energy. And that kind of further reinforces the point that I'm driving home here, right? People with a lot of 9 energy, whether you be a birth number 9, or if you have very personal planets at the 9th degree, once again, it's not to say that you're definitively going to be a victim of gun violence, but you do have to be careful. These are people who, may have to be on the defense. You kind of have to be mindful of stuff like that, especially if you're somebody who kind of puts yourself in those kind of positions. And if you move in a certain way, if you exist in a certain type of industry, dudes who could be in street life parallel to it, you got to be really mindful of that, because that 9 energy is automatically going to set you up for shit like this to potentially happen. You get my drift? So there's that. Another way that this number 9 energy can play out is being a daredevil, being impulsivity, being somebody who is reckless, and it reinforces a lot of those darker sided Sagittarian traits, right? Somebody who is very willful, risky. I'm just going to do what I want. I'm here for a good time, not a long time type of energy. On one hand, it can make a person very successful. These are people who are very passion driven, they're going to chase their dreams. They're going to, live life exactly how they want to live it. And there's a lot of things that can be gained and accomplished from that. These are people who can be entrepreneurs, people who could, set their sights and live their dreams. You know what I'm saying? But on the other hand, once again, it could put them in harm's way. These are people who could just put themselves in just really unnecessary situations. They could be accident prone, or the types to kind of have that I'm going to do what I want. It's my life. I do what I want. I'm going to live how I want. And it can backfire. It could be to their own detriment. You know what I'm saying? And I think this is very much reflected in PNB Rock's demise. He lived life, or he died exactly the way he lived his life, rather, on his own terms, doing what he wanted. Because in hindsight, a lot of people can say, that was irresponsible. He was moving crazy, which is true. And I do agree with. But once you take a look at that, once again, number 9 energy signature attached to him being a Sagittarius at that. Yeah, he was going to do what he wanted to do regardless. The top priority for most Sagittarians is freedom. Freedom. Now, a part of that freedom could include travel. So, for example, feeling like I can travel freely, I can come and go as I want. And I know a lot of people were saying he should have checked in. He should have been moving like this. When you go to LA, you have to do this. When you go to this part of town, you have to do that. That just wasn't his type of vibe. You know what I'm saying? Intuitively, I get that he was the type of person where it's like, who I don't have to answer to you. And that's another dark side of Sagittarian trait. A lot of Sagittarians feel like they are exceptions to the rule, which is why some Sagittarians may actually find themselves in trouble with the law, quite literally. But another way that this can manifest is just feeling like you're above doing certain things, especially if it infringes upon your freedom. Sagittarius also deals with travel. Do I have to really abide by the laws of another land, so to speak? You know what I'm saying? A lot of Sagittarians probably don't feel that way, especially with him being a number 9. These are people who are very secure and kind of just set in what they want to do. And it's just, anything outside of that, fuck it. So right off rip, I could just kind of see in this whole setup, before you even really break down his chart ad nauseum, it makes a lot of things make sense in terms of just how the situation played out, why he even was in that type of predicament to begin with. And so, you have to be careful when it comes to that. He has a lot of daredevil energy, and a lot of just, live life fast. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. I don't know why that phrase just keeps coming in my head, but there may even be something that he could have said, you know what I'm saying, in life. Like, oh yeah, we're here for a good time, not a long time. Yeah, we're going to party. This is a rock star kind of energy. And once again, I didn't really listen to the man's music like that. I don't really know much about him. So y'all feel free to, fill me in the comment section. But that could have even played into like his branding and his aura, or, you know what I'm saying, like that rock star kind of thing. And unfortunately, these are people who burn out fast. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. So PNB Rock has his sun at the 17th degree of Sagittarius. And it's making a really wide conjunction, but a conjunction nonetheless with his Mars. So that reinforces that number 9 birth number he has going on here, that Sagittarian / Mars energy, Martian energy, which once again can make him somebody who is very fun-loving, a free spirit, but even to his own detriment, careless, all those things. His sun is also conjoined to Mercury. He has that Mercury forming a conjunction to his Mars as well. So people who are just, very much on a whim, live life on a whim, impulse. But You know what I'm saying? You can fall into danger, especially when you are outside of your own neighborhood type of vibes. These people, like, they date whenever they travel. This could be an aspect that could produce a person to where it's like, no matter where I am, right, when I go travel, I'm going to act like I'm living in my own backyard. Once again, I mean, you know, can that make a very fun? Can it create for a very like spontaneous person where it's like, you know, Sagittarius, we love adventures now. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, I'm going on an adventure. I'm going to go through this. I'm going to go to this. We're going to do this. You know, is it fun? Yes. Can it be dangerous? Also, yes. So, I mean, he just, once again, that daredevil energy kind of strikes again. He also has his Sun and Mercury squaring Jupiter, with him having Jupiter at the 13th degree of Virgo. So, once again, that can make him very absent-minded, but it could also make him very intuitive. So, but the issue is that he is probably somebody who, I mean, these are people who can ignore their intuition. You know what I mean? So it's like, even the day that this happened, I wouldn't be surprised, especially with him having that 17 energy on his sun and his Mars at the 7th degree. The number 7 can be very intuitive. Sagittarians could be very intuitive at that. So, but this aspect could make him somebody who probably knows better when it comes to certain things, but he just might ignore it. So, you know, I could totally see him feeling like, well, should I go to this particular restaurant on today? Should I make this particular decision on today? But just ignoring it, you know what I'm saying? Not really listening to your inner voice, that higher self. He does have Venus in Scorpio. That could produce a person who is very much hated, a person who could even, you know, be the victim of homicide, or, you know, I could see how somebody could, you know, be on the receiving end of some type of murderous energy from other people. You know, these are people who can be either really loved or really, really hated. They can attract a lot of hate. You know, Venus in Scorpio, once again, not to say that everybody with Venus in Scorpio is going to be murdered, but that is a murderous placement. It just is, right? It could also deal with him dying, you know, while eating. I mean, that's also very fitting. That was one of the first things that kind of stood out to me. But then also, you know, that 3rd degree, the number 3 is ruled by Jupiter. So dying out of town, dying while dining out of town. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, it can play out very literally like that. Okay. His Venus is also, that could also be indicative. Like for some people, that could be a widower aspect, or a placement, I should say. So you could look at this in the terms of like his girlfriend being widowed, or, you know what I mean? Like her witnessing his death, or, you know, having a partner die on you. It could go either way. That's very Venus in Scorpio. His Venus is also squaring his Chiron at that 9th degree of Leo. So that could even deal with where, you know, he's going to be, once again, the recipient or on the receiving end of a lot of like criminal activity because of his popularity, you know, where he could just be very easily recognizable. These are people who can attract hate from others, like within the industry, or people not really liking the attention you get. I also look at this as to be like representative of his style, because he was a very flashy dude. And that was something else that people talked about. Like, why would you go to the hood dressed like this and styled like this? The reason why his Venus in Scorpio is squaring his Chiron at the 9th degree, that number 9 again. Okay, the number 9 could also be very flashy too. People with a lot of 9 energy can be very bold and obnoxious. And it also reinforces that Sun-Mars conjunction in Sagittarius. But with his Chiron squaring his Venus like that, you could look at this as him wearing very gaudy jewelry, like even the way he dresses and styles himself, like just very over the top, like where you attract a lot of attention. But once again, that attention, it may not be good attention. It could be bad attention, which we know it was. His Venus is also squaring his Saturn at the 3rd degree of Aquarius. Once again, at number 3. That could deal with him being under heavy surveillance, especially when he's out of town. Like, that could have also contributed to like his social media usage. You know, you could look at this as the girl posting on social media, or just him having a lot of people watching him on social media that just don't fuck with him. Like, those type of vibes. Also, if you want to put your conspiratorial hat on, because a lot of people wanted to have a larger discussion about why him, and a lot of people who were signed to, I think it's like Empire Recording, like records or whatever the case may be, why a lot of those people end up dead, because a lot of their artists, King Von, Pop Smoke, Young Dolph, a bunch of other people who were signed to this particular, I don't know if it's like a record label or a distribution company, have ended up dead. And if you really want to think along the lens of that conspiracy theory, I can kind of see some truth to it, or I could see how it could cause one to question certain things, because with PNB Rock's Venus and Scorpio square and that Chiron and Leo, a lot of celebrities who have that placement, I noticed, can experience like a lot of like pushback or have a lot of issues within the entertainment industry. And with this square in his Venus, that could be another murderous aspect, or it could point to where, once again, there was a lot of ill intent. There could be, a lot of things behind the scenes in terms of like the record company, the recorded industry, Hollywood, that could make it very plausible that a person would get by some higher ups. You know what I'm saying? Something else I wanted to point out too, the stellium that PNB Rock has in Sagittarius, Sun, Mercury, Mars to be exact, could produce a person who overshares. So like, whereas his Venus in Scorpio square and Saturn in Aquarius could deal with the backlash that comes from that. Because I don't know, he could also be the type to have gotten some backlash just in general throughout his career about something. They could also deal with the internet, like hating his spouse or his girlfriend, baby mama, whatever you want to call her. But the Mercury-Mars conjunction in Sagittarius could be him like doing things himself, like without really thinking about it. Just doing too much, sharing too much, like your location, just doing things and not even really just having a second thought about it. You're not really even paying attention to it, especially with his Mars at the 7th degree. Him talking too much. I mean, he could have told somebody something, anything, you know what I'm saying? So to blame it all on that girl just because she posted the location too is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Now, getting into the transits that were taking place on this day, transit in Mars and Gemini is, or was at the time, forming a quincunx to PNB Rock's Uranus. And that could also just reinforce this concept of like I said, talking too much, especially like via social media, you know what I'm saying? Or them being on their phones a lot during this particular day. And then he also has a death quincunx, or had a death quincunx in effect, which was transit moon, which was in Aries, which could also deal with gun violence, gunfire, being injured. I wonder if he was shot in the head, because that could even point towards like a head injury or something like that. Being shot in the face, the head, that kind of thing. But it's forming a quincunx to his natal Pluto and Scorpio. This is a death quincunx, y'all. So, and the moon could also deal with end of life conditions. That could also even deal with being killed in a restaurant to a certain extent, with that moon energy. So, that was the aspect that took him out transit wise, right? That moon Pluto quincunx with moon transiting moon at the time being in Aries and his natal Pluto in Scorpio. So I thought that was interesting. Very, very, very interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. Before I do, him dying on the 12th, the number 12 deals with victimization and sacrifice. Okay, so that's worth mentioning. In addition to the fact that, if you want to think with the conspiratorial hat as well, sacrifice, him being a sacrifice for something, or like I said, they could also just deal with him being a victim, plain and simple. The number 12 can be a very unfortunate number. So y'all drop down in the comment section. Let me know what you think of his chart. And did you listen to any of his music? So on and so forth. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.